Hey, ho, good neighbors. What's going on? It's Phil Russert, Phil Will Publishing, and I'm going live. It's not a rant, but as you guys know, when things start to irk me or bother me, or I'm really feeling something, I will come on and talk about it. Um, just so you know, these are my opinions strictly, and not those of anybody I work with. Also, to be clear, I am not targeting anybody today. I am not going after anyone. I am not pointing the finger at anybody specifically. I'm just going to be talking in general about things. If you feel I'm talking about you, then maybe that's you having to take a look in the mirror about your practices, because again, I'm just generalizing about the behaviors I'm seeing, not the people themselves, because some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, not everything applies. For like I'm going to talk about parodies and stuff. Parodies are a good thing sometimes, and I have friends that do parodies, and they are actually cool, and they're a good thing. So the things they say are not going to apply to every situation, and they're just my thoughts. And I'm not coming from a place where I think my stuff is great and everybody's else is bad and my shit doesn't stink. That's not the point of this. I just, I've been witnessing and seeing things lately, and I wear my heart on my sleeve and it bothers me. So I kind of want to talk about them, because I think people feel the same way a lot of times, but everybody's afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to say these things, or they say it in unproductive ways where they're coming at people and they're attacking them, and then they just look like aggressors. And that's not helpful either. So I kind of just wanted to, talk about what I think is going on with the indie scene, and I really think it's going backwards. I think we talked about an indie renaissance, and we talked about how great it's becoming, and it has so much potential, the indie scene, to really make an impact in the comics world, and I think we've gone backwards. Where we could have been making strides as indie creators and publishers, I think we're going backwards. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some are what some people are doing, and what seems to be the trends going on, and it's other stuff as well, which I'm going to get into. But I want to remind everybody, I'm not here I'm not attacking anybody, I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody specifically, but there are just things that are going wrong, in my opinion, in this industry. I mean, well, first of all, when you look at the indie comic scene, to go into the positives, I think that more and more books have better, more professional-looking art across the board, because there was a time where there was a lot of bad art. So that's a good thing. Writing, I still think, is hit or miss in the indie scene, no disrespect. And again, I'm not coming from a place where I think I'm so great and I'm punching down. I'm not saying that, because maybe you don't think my writing's great either. Anybody can create a comic book now, and it's saturating the market because there's a billion Kickstarters, because everybody can just make a comic now, and that's actually competition. And I think that there's a lot of creators trying to take the few successful spots, and it's causing a competition, and that competition in the people's minds is making people do things either what they consider the easy way, the cheat way, or maybe the dishonest way, or something with lack of integrity. And people are just pulling out crap, man, and the fighting and the propaganda and the outrage and the sex and all that stuff. Now, the scene encompasses a huge scope of comics. You're talking about a certain genre of books. No, I'm talking about the indie scene in general. I think there's a lot of things that are kind of hurting it right now. I mean, for the long game, not necessarily short term. And again, I'm not here to say right or wrong. Like, for example, Stripe, I think, is wrong to be giving these kind of problems to NSFW campaigns. I'm not a fan of NSFW, but I'm not the only person out there. There is a market for it. There are people that like those books. So I don't think it's right for Stripe, who's just collecting payment, to be censoring those campaigns at all. I don't think it's a good thing. I'm not for censorship. Just because I don't care for something doesn't mean I give up my principles and think you should just censor things. I don't. I think Kickstarter needs to step up and defend that, first of all. Having said that, I think the indie comic scene has, like Sean said, many different genres. And there's something for everybody, and fair enough. But in the long-term scheme of being taken seriously in the indie comic scene, I think, and again, these are my expressed opinions, storytelling should be the focal point of why we're selling books. But that is hard in its own right. So I understand why people go other routes. But for the long-term success of comics, for the indie comic scene to be taken seriously, I get concerned when booby books aren't just a genre, they're taking over, or where homage and parody and celebrity likeness and all of that has become the focal point that people see for indie comics, because now it's become a collector market mostly. And that's hard when comics is a medium of storytelling. Yes, it's visual, so there is that component. But, you know, if we're just bringing in the demographic that is only for comic covers and is only for collectability, then it's hard for the indie scene to grow. There are going to be those few people that are very successful with that, and good on you. If you're successful, great. If there's a market for it, you're not doing anything wrong. So I'm not putting moral judgment or anything on that. But if I'm to speak honestly, I think in the long run, we're hurting the comics industry. Readership is down. And we can talk about how it started with Marvel and DC and everything with variant covers. I won't even argue with that. But it's become a point where the comics are no longer read. They're more like the statues I have behind me or the art on the wall. And that's a good thing in a way, but when it comes to the creator-owned part of things, I think it hurts the industry. I think it's hard to be taken seriously as an indie comics creator when NSFW can't go into comic stores. It's not something that it's specific to a certain demographic, and just the big two alone, I think their readership has gone down because they've gotten away from being, all ages, or at least acceptable for 9 years, 12 years, 13 years. And they've gotten beyond that. And I think that hurts. I think it hurts readership. I think AI is hurting. I think another thing that people don't talk about is the use of Photoshop in a dishonest way. There are people that are taking literally the picture of, Gandalf, or Ian McKellen off of the internet. And what they do is they use Photoshop to kind of brush over it and make it look like they rendered a realistic likeness. And that's not any better than AI, in my opinion. And then they're pushing covers like this, and they're selling covers of that stuff. And then parodies are a good thing. Like Marat Michaels is a friend of mine. I think his Do You Poo is a good thing. It's a fun thing because you know what? First of all, he has Rob's permission with Deadpool, and it's a fun, family-friendly thing. And he's doing all these different genres. So parody's fun. We had Cracked Magazine, we had Mad Magazine. That's great. But we're starting to get into parody wars. We're starting to get into, people taking other IPs and trying to jump on those just to sell a cover so they can make $50,000 on a Kickstarter campaign. And I get it, people are buying it, but how is the indie scene going to be taken seriously when we look like porn, stealing other people's IPs, which I know we're not technically, and parodying everybody else's work, and we're not creating our own. We're not creating something new and exciting and getting people back into reading and getting people back into storytelling and providing something new. Now, again, we can go back and say, well, this is what the fans want. And I agree, and I find that disappointing because you'll throw thousands of dollars at something that's really not new. It's regurgitated. It's the same with movies. We're sitting there throwing our money at remakes, or like, I know it tanked this weekend, but the Mad Max um, world Feroz, or whatever the hell it's called. It's not new. It's just, it's taking the skin of something else, right? I mean, that's really what we're doing these days, and there's no originality anymore. Now, is it hard to be original when there's been so many years of other stuff? Yeah, but okay. So, knuckle up. Let's do it. And I think that there's so much against the indie community right now that we need to start banding together. We're fighting. And that's the next thing. People are so desperate to start being relevant in the comic scene that they'll do anything to get attention. Negative attention is better than no attention, right? They'll start fights. They'll play victim. They'll act like, they're the champions of the world and start fights with people, or they're getting attacked and they're responding, and like, I hate to say this, but EVS and what's his name again, Ripper, they're fighting now. Maybe they genuinely don't get along, but it seems like theater to me. You rile up your fans, and your fans come to your defense, and they'll just buy your book just to spite the other side. And that's your marketing for your book. It's not the quality of the book. It's not that the story's interesting or the characters are something that will, resonate with you and maybe become your new Batman or whatever. It's, no, let's just play on people's emotions, and in this case, anger, to get them to buy my book out of spite for somebody else so that I can make my money. And on the one end, I don't begrudge you. If it works for you and you can make money, good for you. But on the other end, what does it do for the indie community? Now, do you owe the indie community anything? No, technically you don't. But you know what? When it collapses, we all go down with it. So that's something to think about. And then besides the outrage, there's this, the sexuality, right? We've got, and people get mad at me for this, but this is the truth. When I look at someone selling books or whatever, look, I love a beautiful woman as much as the next one. I'm married to a gorgeous fox. But sticking your bare ass out and your boobs out, and that's what you're doing to get your likes and clicks, and guys are just thirsty and they're buying your books because they're thirsty for you. I'm glad it works for you, but what about the quality of the story? I mean, do we care about that anymore? And if we don't, then fine, I'm a dinosaur, shut me up, I'm an idiot. But I don't think that's good for the long term of the indie community. We're using gimmicks. Our focus is on everything but selling a good story. And I think people have been conditioned to buy it. We'll buy 50 variant covers, we'll slab them, spend all this money on those books, thinking they're going to be worth something someday or whatever, just to hang them on our wall. And then they're never going to be worth anything. But you know what is worth something? How many stories have you read in your life, or movies have you watched that resonated with you, touched you, and that you remember them, and they evoke some sort of emotion in you, or they bring you back to a wonderful childhood? And nostalgia sells also because it brings back those feelings that we once had, right? But we don't have that anymore. Why? Because we're not creating content anymore. We're just creating stuff. And we're using outrage and sex and whatever tools we can to get out there and be relevant, but we're not using what's the most important thing, and that's quality stories with quality characters. And I think that hurts us. And as it is, we're already dealing with gatekeeping, right? We spoke about Stripe. That's a form of gatekeeping. I think Stripe is absolutely wrong, and I don't even like NSFW. I don't care for it. As a father and a husband, father of 2 girls, I don't understand bringing that stuff home. That's just me. And I'm not judging anybody. It's just how I feel. I have friends that love that stuff, and they're good people, and I think they're great people, and they're good parents, and they're good husbands and everything. So I'm not judging you, but I don't think it's good for the industry in the long run. And the gatekeeping does help. We got Stripe doing what it's doing, which is now, in my opinion, are really going to hurt Kickstarter, right? Because the sad truth is the other problem that this industry is facing is a lack of economy. There's not much of a money flow, right? All the money flow is at the top, the Brian Politos, the Ethan Van Skyvers, guys like Billy Tucci, the guys that have established themselves. Sean, money is out there. Sean's making money, but it's not filtering down, right? And now, if Kickstarter doesn't step up to Stripe, and they don't allow Sean and um, other guys that are doing NSFW to thrive, now Kickstarter's not making money in the comic area there, because that's where most of the money's coming in. And it's going to hurt the economy of comics. And somebody said to me, but this is a good thing, isn't it? Because if they do this and they stop the booby books, that really helps us. No, it doesn't. Because those people, they're not interested in the storytelling. They're interested in the NSFW. So when Kickstarter no longer provides that, and guys like Sean go to other platforms, they're just going to go to that platform. It doesn't mean they're going to start buying stories. So I don't think it helps anybody. It only hurts the people that are making money. And when I say filter down, what I mean is when money is flowing in the indie community. I mean, you go into a Walmart and I buy a TV, right? It's now circulating money in the economy. And it filters down, right? It filters to the next person. If it creates demand, it creates supply, everybody makes money. Yeah, and see, Sean, and I don't blame you, because with what they did to that one guy, they didn't even give warning. They didn't give a deadline and say we have till blah, blah, blah. They literally just decided we're not going to collect your money and pay it out. They screwed that guy's fans. They screwed his campaign and his wallet. How can you take that chance? You can't do a Kickstarter and expect them to pay out. You don't know what they're going to do. It's bad business. It's really bad business. And it hurts money flow in the indie comics scene. What's up, Charles? It all depends on what your idea of art or comics are for some of the stories. And you're right, Len. It is the case. But let me ask you something, Len. Did Marvel and DC last this long because of stories that people resonate? I mean, think about it. When we talk, or even EC Comics, I know you love horror. We talk about classic storylines that we loved. We talk about, oh man, do you remember that Chris Claremont, John Byrne run? Or do you remember Peter David's run on the Hulk? When you start losing that, I really don't think it's going to survive. Now, I'm not a doom and gloom thinking comics is going to die. It's not going to die, because there is storytelling in the mainstream comics world. Now, do I like the storytelling that they're doing? No, I don't think it's good storytelling at all. But at least there's storytelling going on. If you don't have readers, I don't think we can sustain. I don't. I think readers are where you sustain. And I think right now, Kickstarter and all the crowdfunding is oversaturated with tons of books. And if you look at the demographics, anybody who's starting out new right now is struggling. Like if you were 2 or 3 years in, 4 years in, and you had your backers and you started getting support, you can still be okay in Kickstarter right now. But when you look at people that are doing their first campaigns right now, one, the economy is not great, but they're struggling. Campaigns that probably would have done 3,000 or 4,000, 2 years ago are doing 1,200, maybe, and it's struggling, And I agree, but I think big changes are coming, and I think because this can't sustain. Stripe blocked the payment we had through Backer Kit. That's wrong. Make a new Stripe account just to get payment, and that got closed. See, that's wrong, Sean. I don't agree with that at all. I don't at all. That's censorship. And where do they have the right to do that? That's your money. They're essentially, they're not stealing anything, but they're depriving you of your money in a way that's theft. To me, that's wrong. You don't mess with a person's business, or their family. So The fandom demographic, I think, has changed on crowdfunding to much less readers and more collectors, and I don't think that helps the indie community. But what really hurts the indie community is the fact that distribution is a big gatekeeper, and I don't get that. I understand why publishers have to gatekeep because they're investing, right? And a publisher really needs to feel confident in that investment or they're going to lose money. But a distributor, they get 60% diamond, 60% to ship out your books and put you in previews. Their overhead is can't be that high paying somebody to pack up your books and what do you call it? Putting you in previews. And they're taking 60% on everybody's books. So I don't see where their risk is, honestly, but they're still gatekeeping. And that's tough because without distribution, it's very hard for a little guy to grow, you know? And honestly, I think some of the gatekeeping is those who are successful, talking about mainstream, not indie, they don't want competition. So why the hell do they want you coming out? Honestly, a lot of comics are boring ideas and boring covers. Times are tough and people won't buy something just because it's made. Covers draw people on. I agree with you that art brings them in and writing keeps them. I agree. But again, in the indie scene, how many are really reading anymore? I don't see it. I don't see them. I don't hear anybody talking about the books they're reading, but I see them showing off the covers that they've bought and slabbed, etc. You know? They say that, but they say 60%, and you're giving the retailer the 50%. But what they said in the submission guideline is you got to give the retailer 50%, but of what the remaining what's left, they take 60%. Now maybe I'm reading that wrong, but I think that all these retail variant cover guys, that are flooding the market with all these variants, you know, through Marvel, DC, etc. I think right now that's grifter stuff, and it's going to hurt more than it's going to help eventually. They're going to get their payday, and they're going to make their money, and then they're going to move on to the next thing while they hurt this industry. I think so. I think no disrespect, Sean. I got nothing against you, and make your money. But I think constantly putting out NSFW covers and like all the Taylor Swift and all the, you know, celebrity stuff. I mean, it's gimmicky stuff, and yeah, do people want it? But I don't think that's going to help the indie comics industry going forward. I mean, you don't owe the indie comics industry that, but I don't think it's going to help it in the long run. And I just think it's easy to say, well, you know, the content isn't that great, when there is great content out there. I can name some guys that I know that their books were fantastic and they just couldn't get the fan base. But if I see people now that have quality books and they're getting desperate and they're starting to do cheesecake covers because sex sells. And that's a shame. I mean, I'm sorry, it is, because it's not about the quality of the story. It's about the tits and ass on the cover or the celebrity that you use, or whatever gimmick. And you know, gimmicks are cool, but if that's all the indie scene is going to be, or it's going to be looked at as that's all it's going to be, I don't think we're going to thrive. I just don't. You know, this is a small pond, and growth is important. And there's so many little guys fighting for the little morsels of fish food, that it's getting ugly. You know, there's infighting. There's this competitive spirit where I got to squash you instead of work with you or build you up. And you know, and if you look at some of the big names on Kickstarter, even their campaigns, you know, when they were doing 425,000, now they're doing 275,000. Are they still doing well? Of course they are, but no business wants to go backwards. I don't care who you are. If you're making $425,000, you don't want to see 275 on the next campaign, because that's going backwards. And no business wants to go backwards. They want to go forward. They want to grow, at least a healthy business. So what are they doing? They're putting out more campaigns more frequently. You know? I hear you, Sean, and I'm not trying to attack you, just so you know. Like I said before I started this, I'm not passing moral judgment or attacking anybody. If you can make money and you're not harming anybody and there's a fan base for it, go for it. Make your money. I'm just talking about what I think in the long run is not helping the indie comics community getting readership. Let me make it that clear, because you are bringing money into the circulating economy of the indie community, because when you make money, you hire artists, you hire editors, you hire logo designers, you hire inkers, pencilers, colorists. So you essentially are doing something for the community by bringing that cash flow in. But in the long run, for bringing in readership, no. And I'm just getting tired of the marketing gimmicks too. The outrage, the fighting, the there's a lot of man children in this industry, and this is another reason why I don't think we're taken seriously. This is a freaking business, and Sean treats it like a business. You're dealing with money, and you're handing money to people that you're hiring, and you're looking to make a profit. And you have profit margins, you have budgets, you have the capital that you want to make. You know where your bottom line is, you know where you want to be. That's business. And I think a lot of people, they come in here thinking, oh, comics are fun. I don't want to work a day job in a 9 to 5 or whatever, so I'm just going to make my comics. And they're not realizing it's still business, or they're not giving you quality stuff because this is not being taken serious. And when you're on the outside looking in the indie community and you see people fighting over stupid shit, or you see books that are not quality, or you see gimmick after gimmick after gimmick, I don't know if the mainstream is going to take it seriously. And you got to remember, I'm talking about bringing readership in. This is strictly about the readers that I'm talking about. Readers who read Marvel and DC and won't give an indie book a chance, there's a reason for that. There's a stigma on us. There's a stigma. And I think that we unintentionally, in some cases, and sometimes intentionally, we give into that stigma. And it's reinforced. And I will go to what Sean said. There also are a lot of books that are unoriginal, and it's an obvious ripoff. We can only have so many Batmans. We can have so many Supermans. We can, and sometimes the costumes are just so derivative. It's not new. It's not fresh. It's like, yeah, that's Doctor Strange, so you call him Dr. Magic. I mean, it's true. It's true. That doesn't help either. But it feels like the focus is in the wrong spot, in my opinion. People are looking to be relevant, get clicks, get likes, get attention, whether it's bearing their ass, or the next gimmick, or the fight that they start, or they get involved in. And don't get me wrong, I've responded to people where I probably should have walked away. I'm guilty of that. I get sucked in. I never start anything, but sometimes people just really fucking piss me off, and I respond, and I should stop. So I get what you're saying, Sean, and you're right. But where I disagree is, yes, that's what sells in the indie community, which means the indie community has no room for readers, because we're not selling anywhere near the amount of quality books for readers than we are the sex and the gimmicks and the variant covers for collectors. And that's why I'm saying I'm not passing judgment on that. I'm not saying, oh, you're evil or you're shit. I mean, I'm defending NSFW. I'm defending you against Stripe. You should have a right to be out there. I'm just saying the indie community is never going to grow, in my opinion. It's never going to move forward if we don't start gaining readers. And we're not drawing that demographic in. And that's why more people are going to NSFW, more people are going to booby covers, more people are going to gimmicks, more people are using outrage, because they're like, nobody wants to give my story a chance and pay attention to me, so you know what? I'm going to scream at the sky and start a fight with somebody, and boom, it worked for EBS, it'll work for me. And it just, I don't know, I think it hurts. I think it hurts more than anything. To know the average age of comic backers. The younger generation doesn't have the collection mentality older generations did. Everything is immediate and throwaway. My daughters would much rather read digital media than have a box of books bagged and boarded sitting in their room. Essentially, are we selling to a dying base? That's a great question. That's a great question. And I don't know the answer because readership is dying in the American Western comic book market, but it's not in manga. So that's why I don't think it's a dying base. And again, I'm not placing fault on anybody, Sean. Listen, you're making successful campaigns. You're doing you and you're not hurting anybody. And those people want what you're selling and they're buying it. And that's great. That's great. But it's not bringing in readers. Well, manga is a throwaway, you say, but the funny thing is, if you talk to manga readers, they're a very loyal fan base. Well, it's the collector fan base that's really created this. I don't blame any creator for providing what the collectors want. It's the fan base. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fan base. I'm not attacking the creators. I'll give you an example. My father just died. And I was trying my best to get my graphic novel Papa out. And everybody who read it says it's a great Silver Age story. It's well written. It's really good. Which, thank you, by the way. The problem is it would cost me 15 grand to make that book. So to Kickstarter, I'd have to do 15 grand because I don't have 15 grand. There's no way that book is going to make 15 grand on Kickstarter. But if it was an NSFW book of tragedy, if I had her tits sticking out and her ass sticking out and maybe doing some lesbo shit, I'd probably make $25,000 on that campaign. Do I get mad at people creating NSFW books for that? No. But do I feel bitter that fans won't support a well-written story that's got heart, but they'll spend money on cartoon porn? I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, I do. I get bitter about that. I do. I'm always honest. I get bitter about that. Make a tea in a book. I'll raise before you anything. But see, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't think that's just not me. It's not me. My youngest daughter loves manga, but it's not a prized possession for her. She reads them, beats the shit out of them, lends them out instead of it's selling. Well, all right. You know what though? Why do you think all our old comics are worth money? Because those kids did that too. They beat up their Hulk 181s. They beat up their X-Men ones. I'm not mad at the industry. I'm a little bitter at the fan base that they don't, that it's one or the other. Like I would love to see everybody make money. I'd love to look, you sell NSFW, you make it 30 grand, good for you. I would just love for people who want to spend money on quality read stories too. But they'll sit there and tell you, I don't have the money for a $10 PDF for my friend, a $10 book for my friend Charles Morgan, who's busting his ass. But they just spent $80 on a cover that has a half-naked cartoon person. Me personally, I mean, why don't you just get a Playboy or a something like that? At least it's a real woman. But whatever, whatever. It's just my preference, and I just think these are issues, and I think that honestly, I think it's going to run its course, and I think it's going to drag. People are going to, certain people will make their money and they'll do well, and then it's going to die out, just like everything else is cyclical, and those creators will move on to the next thing, and they'll do whatever's hot at that moment, and they'll continue to find a way to be successful. But where is it going to leave the comic industry for building reader audiences again? You know, where is that going to be? And again, no, Sean, none of us per se owe the industry anything. We owe our families to provide and support for them and be as successful as we can be. So I get it. Sean, Len, me, we don't owe anybody but our families. But I just always feel like if the comics industry does lose readership so much that it goes down, we're all going to pay for it. We're all going to pay for it. I feel like distribution, these people need to start allowing quality books that aren't well known in, because we do need new stuff. We do need to bring in new generations. We do need to bring an excitement to comic books again to read. I'll give you an example, Sean. You use Diamond. You have some books I see in stores out in Diamond, and you said so. You said so yourself. I agree with you. Readership's down, but you said so yourself, Sean. The books that you aren't doing the NSFW, where you're writing stories and you put them in comic stores, they're not flying off the shelves. They're not selling as well. And so it hurts you in that sense, right? Because you're going to distribution, but you're not doing the numbers that you feel you should or that you could, because of the current market. Well, if we started building up readership again on the indie scene, maybe that would help those sales for you that you put in distribution, and you'd still be selling the NSFW. You'd still be making those campaigns, and now you'd be making money on both sides instead of this, the NSFW recouping, your disappointing sales on the distribution side, especially since they're taking a lot more money. Right, exactly. 70 cents per issue. That's insane. That doesn't even cover your print run. How many books you got to print for that? And that's the other thing with social media and so much at your fingertips. Yes, there's so much distraction. There's so much to consume, and TikTok brain is hurting us all. I agree. I agree with you, Sean. And it's hurting. It's hurting. And I'm hoping that we can get to a point where we can maintain the collector market, because I do think that's important. It needs to stay, but gain the reader market as well, because that's when we'll really thrive, when we have both, right? Because you can easily get someone who loves to read great stories to still enjoy the variant cover or the that special cover or whatever case may be. You can, but for whatever reason, we're not getting those collectors to want to read the books. They just want to slab them, hang them up on the wall, hope that they turn into a value someday, and boom. It will take a new wave of talent people to uplift. Yeah, but the problem is, Len, the industry right now is gatekeeping a lot. People may disagree with me on that. They are. We have gatekeeping from what Stripe is doing to Kickstarter. Indiegogo was shadow banning campaigns. That's why a lot of people left it and went to other crowdfunding platforms. Facebook is, you can't even say Kickstarter in a post or put a link, or they shadow ban you. Why? Because they want you to buy their ads. That's a form of gatekeeping. We're going to let you know that you can only get out to enough people if you pay us. And even when you pay Facebook, they're sending you to bots. You get 5,000 likes on a post and they're all bots. Nobody's buying. So that's gatekeeping. Distribution is gatekeeping. I don't like to say publishing is gatekeeping, because honestly, they really are the ones with the investment. They're taking a risk. And I don't blame any publisher for not wanting to take a risk on something, because they're the ones losing the money. And I'm never going to criticize someone who's not comfortable putting their money up. So I don't think publishers are gatekeepers, but I do think distribution, social media, Stripe, crowdfunding, it's all gatekeeping. And it's an uphill battle when you're not a name. It is what it is. It seems like in the last 20, 30 years, we're selling brands more than content, right? It doesn't have to be. Take it easy, Sean. Thanks for coming out and chiming in. It doesn't have to be that way, but unfortunately, fans clamor for names. Like you could have a big name, and I won't say who, but you could have a big name, and their art is just, it's gotten worse over the years, but their loyal fans will buy anything that person does, but they won't give a shot to Charles' book, or if Len asks for $120 for an 11x17 fully colored, blah, blah, they're like, I don't know, that's a lot of money, but they just spent $400 on a 3x3-inch crappy sketch that looks like a 12-year-old drew because it was a big name. So it's tough. But the second Len breaks through and becomes some sort of a name, if he gets that shot, now they'll clamor for him. They'll spend $6,000 on his art. It's just crazy how people celebrity worship and they put value on the brand, the person, more than the content. There are some big name artists out there that really suck. I'm sorry, they suck, but for whatever reason, they have big names and people will buy everything that they put out. I've looked at some art and I go, oh my God, I know art is subjective, but that is just trash. It's just bad, and people will throw money at it, and it's tough, So I do think the gimmicks are hurting getting readership in. I do think using celebrities and homages a lot. Not There's nothing wrong with some homage covers and some parodies, but using them to the extent that we are these days, I think it hurts. I think it hurts. And if you look at indie comics, nobody's talking about the stories. We need you to. And then another problem is there's clicks. It's like high school. Most of the people in the indie scene are very immature. I'm sorry, they are. They may be adults in body, but they're not emotionally in mind, and they get very competitive and spiteful and jealous, and going in DMs secretly trying to cause trouble, or trying to mock or downplay or do YouTube videos bashing people or to get clicks, or just antagonizing. All that shit's got to stop. It's getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, how many of you are looking at your feeds and all you see is who's the latest person to fight with the latest person? I mean, I've said this 100 times on my live streams. 100 times, right? If I'm driving down a highway and I see well, not me, but people will drive down a highway and they see a family stuck on the side of the road with a flat tire, a wife, a husband, 2 kids. They keep driving. But if they saw that car wrapped around a pole, they stop and rubberneck and look and block up traffic for hours. People like controversy. They like car wrecks. They do. They like death, destruction. It's so much easier to tear something down than build it up, and that's what the indie community is doing. I'm sorry, it is. There's a lot of petty people in this community that it's all about their ego or their insecurity, or they're using ego to overcompensate, and they're picking fights. They're knocking people down. They're mocking. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And then some people get pissed off and tired of that, and they lash back, and then they're the bad guy. It's like, well, you didn't see who was poking them. You just see their response, and now they're the bad guy, and everybody's taking sides, and everybody's attacking, and there's hypocrisy all over the place. I'm not going to get into it, but right now, a big name is parodying a big IP. Fine. Who cares? By law, they're doing nothing illegal. They can do what they want. And there's nothing wrong with that. Someone else parodied that person's IP, and they got attacked by that person's fan base. I don't understand that. You're okay with that person taking somebody else's IP because you're a big fan of theirs, but when somebody takes theirs, you attack them, you go after them, you make it personal, talk about their family, their kids. I don't get it. It's not about liking that person, not liking that person. It's about, standards have to be set across the board. They have to be fair. That's my opinion. Is it possible that new markets need to be tapped into? Partly about yes, but here's the thing. That's niche, right? So you may tap into that limited niche market, but what do you do with something that is more universal, like a superhero book? That's not going to go at a horror book. You're not going to get horror readers for that. Niche will always do all right, because as long as you know where to find that demographic, right? If I took Diary of Dread and I go to horror cons, it'll probably sell really well, and then word of mouth will buzz. They'll be like, this was really good. I want more. But Diary of Dread at a regular pop culture con, probably not. I sell them, but not. I'm not making boatloads of money. We have to get to a mass audience and distribution. I think Charles said it. The reader market is where the long game is, and I agree with that. The reader market is absolutely the long game. I mean, remember the days where Marvel and DC were selling 900,000 copies of Iron Man that Sean Chen was on, when they sold 1 million copies of X-Men, Claremont and Jim Lee? It was a nice combination of people wanting the art and great stories. I mean, the Jim Lee Claremont X-Men run is a perfect example of the beautiful blend that is great art, collectible art, and beautiful storytelling that you can enjoy and resonate with, right? That's a perfect example. We have to get back to that. I think the indie scene has improved greatly on its art. Storytelling and writing, no offense, I've read some books that are, and you may say that about mine, so I get it. But It's too many gimmicks, guys. Gimmicks aren't gonna last. They're a fad. Gimmicks are a fad, and those people will do those gimmicks, and then when it's all done and dried up, they'll move on to the next gimmick. But readership is forever. Once you get readers, people are still reading Spawn. People are still reading Savage Dragon. Whether it's a lot or a little, they're still reading. Those people are loyal. People are still reading Batman. How many people have a pull list for Marvel and DC? They don't even like what they're reading anymore, but they're staying faithful and loyal to those characters, hoping that they'll write them well again. I did it with the X-Men for a long time before I finally quit. Sorry, the pod people was enough for me. I mean, readers are loyal. They come back. Look at Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder, wrote legendary runs with Batman and a bunch of other stuff, right? Now, I heard some people say, I never read it, so I can't say that his stuff on Justice League or Justice League Metal was subpar. I don't know. I really don't know. I've always known him as a great writer, so I don't know. But you know what? When he started his own stuff again, and he started the Comixology and everything, they came out in droves because they trust him, they believed in him, and they loved his writing. So they felt they were going to get a quality story. And you know what? Everybody says the writing is great. Without his restrictions from editors and Marvel, he's probably just flourishing as a writer again. And people are loving it because when you write good stories, people want to continue to delve into good stories. That's the wonderful thing about storytelling, is it's an escape. It's an escape from the hardships of the day. And as much as I love this art on the wall, and I don't want to trade it in or sell it, I cherish the great stories that stuck with me. Shawshank Redemption, Falling Down. These stories stick with me, man, because you can relate to them. How many of us felt like Andy Dufresne when he said, I may not have been a great husband, but I sure didn't deserve this. I paid my dues and then some. How many of us feel like we've paid our dues and then some, and we need a break? We need our freedom. When he comes out in the water and he's free and he's feeling the rain in his face and he's happy despite he just went through 4 football fields or 2 football fields of sludge. I mean, it resonated with all of us who saw it, right? The ups to downs. That's the stuff that matters. That's the stuff that sticks with us. Titty covers, they're a fad. They come, they go. And I'm not trying to talk you out of buying the titty covers. I'm trying to talk you into buying both. Invest in the titty covers. Enjoy them. Hang them on your wall. Go pick up a good book, too. Go check out Charles W. Morgan's Grime Noir story, Cold Cutter. Check it out. What does it hurt you for a $6 PDF? Or he's got a campaign going right now. Charles, drop the link. DM Ray. You love fantasy? You love D&D? DM Ray has 2 days left, and at the end, I'm going to show you the campaign. He has 2 days left on his book that I'm publishing called Madcaps. I mean, it's about 4 Dungeons & Dragons characters of different races, different abilities, that are friends, and they reunite and come back together after a long time away, and they have to deal with a conflict in a town. It's a drug that's causing a zombie infection, but it's more than that because it is Dungeons & Dragons. So there is the Dungeons & Dragons element to it. And it's a lot of fun. And it's a beautifully illustrated book. And the story is well written. And again, who can't relate to reuniting with friends after a long time? And it's like time didn't pass. You were just comfortable with each other. It was good to see each other. And facing the day and heroism and facing adversity. And Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, who doesn't love that, right? So that's live right now, and we're at $1,688 with 48 hours to go. But why can't this campaign do 4,000 or 5,000? I mean, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. If you could throw $80 at a NSFW book, why not throw $10 at a month at a new book and just give it a shot? If you don't like it, you don't like it. You got toilet paper for 2 weeks. But what if you do? And it helps circulate money in the economy, because the more creatives make, the more we're spending on better art, on editors, on writers, on inkers, pencilers, colorists, logo designers, digital formatters, marketing, and it just helps everyone get, all these artists that are struggling and like, I just want to do art for a living. Okay, I want you to also, but I can't afford you unless people want to start buying these books. Which, by the way, this is another thing that hurts creators. You may not be obligated to do it, but I think it's stupid that you don't. If you're an artist and you do a cover on an indie book and you don't promote that book hard, you're foolish. And I'll tell you why. You may say, well, I got paid. I don't get royalties from the book. It's marketing. When people see that your book sold well and they like the cover and they see it everywhere, they start following you. They start paying for you. Other creators look at other creators. You think I'm not looking at Grok's comics and Lee Giles and them and looking at the artists they're hiring and seeing how well their sales are, how well those books, those covers sell? Of course I am, because then I'm going to go look to hire them. That's how you get work as an artist. You know, if Len does a cover for me, which he's done several, and they were great, and people go, wow, that was nice, and they see Len promoting it all the time, and they see that book sold 30 or 40 issues on a campaign, then maybe DM Ray is going to go, shit, I want to hire that guy. How much is he? Because if he did that well in Phil's campaign, I want to draw that kind of attention. Marketing. That's the wonderful thing about being an artist. Every single thing you put down on paper is your own commercial. See, as a writer, I don't have that. You have to buy the book and read it before you can determine if I'm a good writer or not. So it's the art that brings you in. But with an artist, it's as simple as, this is what I drew. Do you like it or not? And if you have the money, you'll buy it. A lot of times art collectors don't have the money and they still find a way to buy it. You know, and that's helping too. You help the creator, you help the campaign, and you help yourself. But I think there's too much malice, jealousy, pettiness going on in the industry. A bunch of children, they're seeing each other's competition, or they get pissed if they see you doing well. I am not angry when I see NSFW doing well. I'm angry that everybody can't do that well. I'm angry or bitter that I can't make the money I needed to get Pop at my dad's hands before he died because there's no tits on the cover. Yes, I'm mad about that. I'm not going to lie. It pissed me off. It really bothered me that there's no way I can make 15 grand on a book that everybody is saying is so well written. It's like a Silver Age classic hero tale, and they loved it. And there were twists they didn't see coming. So I'm sorry, but yeah, because it's a shallow world. We've become a very shallow, narcissistic, selfish world, and it shows in our taste, in our likes and our dislikes. I'm sorry, it's true. It's true, and there'll be people that walk away angry from this. I have people that have watched this or will watch it later that will feel I'm talking about them because they feel they're the ones, because they know they're doing these things, and they're going to be mad at me. Some secretly, some outwardly. Okay. I'm not saying anything that a ton of people aren't thinking. They're just trying to keep their heads down. Me, I don't give a fuck anymore. Because you know what? Like me for my merit, okay? For the quality stories. You don't have to like me as a person, but if you like the stories I put out there and you enjoy them, enjoy them. If you don't like that I'm honest and straightforward, well, that's something you have to look in your own heart. Maybe you're not honest and straightforward. I don't give a shit. I care about the people that invest in me, and I want to invest in them, and I want to help see the community thrive. And it's not thriving, guys. I think it's going backwards. I really think it's going backwards. I mean, I said it before. How many of you every day get disgusted seeing the new feud in comics? What's the new thing we're mad about? What's the new complaint we have? That's all we see. Negativity, negativity, negativity. But if I post something positive, it gets no attention. And that's also gatekeeping. Facebook will block stuff like that. They will shadow ban it. They don't show it to enough people. I have 5,000 friends and almost 2,000 followers. That's 7,000 people on Facebook. And I'll be lucky if the same 80 people see my posts. Maybe 150. It's gatekeeping, guys. We're fighting an uphill battle as it is, and now we're fighting each other. Over what? I mean, the people at the top are laughing at us. They think we're a joke. And you know what? I hate to tell you, so does the mainstream collector and reader. They're like, I'm not taking them seriously. I'm gonna go look for an old slab 9.8. I'll spend $3,000 on that old book, but I'm not gonna spend $10 on this guy's indie book because they don't take us seriously. They don't. How hard are all of you working at a con or on your social media or on your Kickstarter to get the next follower, the next backer? How many of you are grinding and killing yourself just to get out there, fight the algorithms, fight the disinterest, fight the bots, fight the gatekeepers, and now you got to fight somebody in the community because they're coming at you for whatever reason? Guys, it ain't working. If you think that your outrage is working, it's not. Now, is sex working? Yeah, because it's always going to sell. But it's not doing a damn thing for this community in the long run. Readers are where longevity is. That's the long game. I'm always a long game guy. I don't expect anything to be won today. You know, and that's how I approach relationships, right? Some of you don't realize how many big names that I am friends with or respect me. Even if I don't go out to dinner with them, they respect me and what I'm doing. Why? I don't try to use them. I don't expect them to be my buddy the second I start talking to them, and it's not even my goal. I talk to them because we have something in common, or we catch on something, and take care, have a good day. And maybe by the fifth, sixth time I see them, hey, how you doing? And now I get to know them. How's your family? This and that, because I'm genuinely investing in the person, not what they can do for me. And that's another thing. Too many of you, you're developing relationships with the intent of, well, what can I get from this person? What can they do for me? Most people aren't stupid. If they don't realize it right away, they will realize it later on, and it's going to bite you in the ass. This disingenuous grifter attitude that a lot of people have is not good. And I get it all the time. I get people trying to use me all the time. I don't talk much and name drop much about people that I'm cool with because I'm not defined by who I'm friends with. I'm defined by what I do in this world. I may be friends with this big name, but I'm not their Robin. I'm Phil. I'm me. And I'm not going to be liked or appreciated or valued because I'm connected to them. That's bullshit. Not only would I not use them like that because that wouldn't be being a friend, but I'm worth more than that. I'm worth more than jumping on somebody else's name. I'm worth me and what I do. So, but people got to stop. That's why I say stay away from drama and have no interest in fighting. I just want to create. It's hard to fight a war on all fronts. Exactly, Len. But that's what's going on. I mean, how many of you are tired of social media, but you have to stay on it to try to push your business? I'll be the first to tell you, I fucking hate social media. I was off Facebook for 5 years, and I was happier. Go touch grass is the expression they use. I was happier. But I have to be on social media to promote my books. I have to. It's a necessary evil. Now, have I met some good people here? Yeah, of course I have. But it's so negative. It's angry. It's toxic. It's all this crap. And it's made everybody narcissistic and attention-seeking. It seems like more people in the indie comics industry would rather garner 1,000 likes than people reading their stories and enjoying them. What are you in this for? Are you in this because you didn't want to work a 9 to 5, so you're going to make crappy comics or titty comics or gimmick comics just so you can make $40,000 on a Kickstarter every 3 months and live off of that? Or do you care about storytelling? Do you care about comics? Call me corny. I had a really, really shitty, violent childhood. I never did drugs. I never did alcohol. I've never been drunk, and I'm Irish. Go figure. Got into a lot of fights. I never started them, but I didn't back down. I had a very violent life. I was very alone, and comics were my escape. Comics taught me morality, right from wrong, who the good guy is. Comics helped me get away from the shit that was eating at me every day. So I love comics. I care about comics. I hate what mainstream is doing it to right now, and I hate watching what indie is doing it to itself. Everybody talked about a year or two ago, there's an indie renaissance, and I believed it at the time. I don't anymore, because pettiness, childishness, people who don't understand this is still a business. It's, people who would rather tear you down or use gimmicks. People who are not in it for the right reason. They're not in it for storytelling and creating something beautiful. They're in it to just make an easy buck, grift their way through, and move on to the next grift. And I don't want a used car salesman selling me a comic. I don't even want him selling me a car. And I think the indie scene needs to start getting readers. We need readers. We need people to invest in the quality of a story, not just tits and ass and a gimmick cover. And again, I'm not saying don't buy that stuff. I'm not telling you how to spend your money. But for the comic industry to last, you have to gain readership again. Collectors move on to the next thing all the time. How hot was it to do Beanie Babies at one point? How hot was it to get all the McDonald's Star Wars glasses at one time? Or how hot was it to get, Ninja Turtles, or I don't know what. Well, Ninja Turtles still lasts. That's a bad example, but I don't know. Just think of something. I'm sure you can all think of a toy or a collectible item that was hot for that 15 minutes, and now nobody gives a shit about. Well, that's going to happen with this too. And then where is the industry? Because it's starting to implode, guys. We need readers. We don't need gimmicks. We need quality stories. Because I'm also going to let you in a little secret. All of you who are slabbing these books that have been printed to death, none of them are getting destroyed, which means they won't be worth shit 30 years from now. The whole point of the value in a comic book is that it became rare, and the good conditions became rare, because we didn't treat our comics with respect, because we didn't see them as investments. Knuckle Supper, which is Jason, mentioned before how manga, his daughters just trash it. It's not respected. Sure, it is respected, because they always talk about the stories. They watch the animes. They buy the toys. They go back and talk to their friends about the stories. It's always here and here, no matter where that book is. They'll go buy it again someday if it gets trashed. And that's how we were in the golden and silver age. We didn't respect the books. We respected the stories and the enjoyment of them. And we rolled them up and put them in our back pocket, and they got ripped to shreds, or our parents threw them out. And that's why they have value now. But now, how many ASM 300s are 9.8s or 9.9s and slabbed? And you think that book is going to be worth anything in 20 years? There's a shit ton of them out there. And they're all preserved. Preservation of books is a gimmick, because it's not going to have value. It's when they're not preserved that they have value. You hold on to what you have, but if everybody's holding on to them and everybody's protecting them in a slab, none of them are getting destroyed. And they're printing much higher runs. Second printing, third printing, and they have value. Or how about the gimmick of Venom, the movie's coming out, so now the book is the Venom's first appearance through the roof, and then the movie sucks, or it's 4 months old, the movie's out of theaters, nobody gives a shit anymore, the book goes down. It's all propaganda, gimmick, bullshit, guys. It's crap. And everybody's throwing their money at this, but you're not throwing your money at what's going to keep the comic industry healthy, what's keeping it going, what's going to make it better. If you don't like the stories that are out mainstream, give indie comics a try. There are a lot of great people out there that are giving you quality stories. And you can't tell me I'm wrong until you try it. Len, don't twist my words. I did not say art is a gimmick. The use of the art is the gimmick. The use of it is the gimmick. And depending on what they are doing art of. Like if you take Taylor Swift and you draw a parody of her, you're using the art as a gimmick. You are. Are you a bad person for that? No. But are you honestly getting readers for that? No. No, you're not. No, you're not. You were saying my Beanie Babies aren't worth anything anymore? What's up? Let's do this. So, I mean, I just wanted to talk about it because it's really frustrating me. and I want you guys to understand something. This is not coming from a place of, I think tragedy should be selling millions, and because it isn't, you're all assholes. It's not that at all. To be honest with you, tragedy has made me quite a bit of money. Tragedy has been very good to me. Okay, but I would like to grow. I'd like it to be out there more. Not because I want to be rich, not because I want to be famous. I certainly don't want anybody kissing my ass or celebrity worshiping or looking up to me because I'm no better than anybody else, and that shit's just ridiculous. But I would love for them to read my stories, and maybe it helps them in some way to cope with their day and say, that's me. I get that. I feel that way too, or I can relate to that. The same emotions that we get when we watch Rocky or Star Wars or whatever. If my stories can do that for people and they can really enjoy them, then I'm very wealthy. I'm very happy. That's what I want. I just want to create good stories. That's it. And, maybe my stories aren't for you. Maybe you read them and you're like, it was all right. It just didn't do anything for me. Okay. I thank you for giving it a try at least, But so I'm not coming from that place. My only bitterness is the Papa thing. But what I am saying is I want to see comics be strong again. Guys, Batman 5 years ago was the highest selling book at 134,000 copies a month. That would have been a book that was close to cancellation, or maybe, lower than middle of the list in the 90s, and now they don't tally the numbers anymore, and there's a reason for that. They're low. I can't imagine them doing 60 to 80,000 at this point. That is horrendous. We have 330 million people in this country, and we only sell 60,000 books a month of a certain title. That's not good. That's not longevity. That's not sustainability, guys. It's not. It's just not. And I know artists will fight me on this. Yes, art is the attraction that gets you to pick up a book most of the time. Absolutely. But writing is what keeps it. And if the writing sucks, it's going to go downhill, and people are not going to be collecting all the time. Because why would you buy a comic for art when you can go get the art commission from the artist, or you could buy a print or whatever? You know what I'm saying? It's like there's other art options when it comes to comics. But when it comes to comics, there's only one reading option. Pick up the comic. Jim Shooter would cancel 90% of the books coming out right now. Yeah, he would. And he would cancel them very vocally and very loudly and very angrily. Absolutely. I'm just saying, man, support. And again, if you love art and you love artists and you want to see great art, how many of you looked at an independent book and you thought, that was written well, but God, the art was just terrible. You know why? Because that writer, that creator couldn't afford to pay for a higher end artist. No disrespect, but some artists are just not at a professional level yet. Just like some writers aren't, or editors or whatever. But if you support them, support the good story, watch the art get better. Watch them hire an editor, or art director, or get a better penciler, or you're giving the artist a chance to keep drawing and getting better and getting better and getting better. We have to start lifting each other up. Enough with this outrage bullshit. Enough with the fake fighting or the fake outrage or the offense to everything, because it's not helping. You may think it's helping you short term and getting you attention, but likes do not equate to dollars, and they do not equate to readers. They don't. They're a stupid thumb up. How many people just scroll by, thumb up, or they laugh at your controversy, and they'll go read it and they'll go look at it every day, and they'll be like, look at this guy fighting with this guy. This is entertaining. Where's my popcorn meme? But they're not buying your books. Or the ones that are buying your books because they're glad you're sticking it to the other guy, and they're buying a support sticking it to the other guy. That's not sustainable. That doesn't last. Outrage only goes so far. It all fades. You know what doesn't fade? Legends. And what are legends? Characters that are timeless. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. How many times have they written those guys and ruined, you would think they would have ruined them by now, right? That the stories were just shitty recently, but they don't, because those characters are beyond legend. They're mythical. They are entrenched in our society now on a deep level. Why? We relate to Peter Parker, right? We relate to the struggles of the hero. We relate to the story. People yell at me. I had an argument, I would say an argument, a disagreement recently. Someone was telling me that art is more important than writing, and he's a big artist in the industry, so of course he's going to say that. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You know why? Because how many of you will talk about your favorite run in comics, but you're not going to, unless you're seeing the cover. You may see the cover, oh, that's my favorite cover, I love that cover. But usually when you start a conversation about comics, you talk about, I loved when Claremont had Alpha Flight meet the X-Men for the first time, or the Brood saga. That was awesome, and that was stemmed from blah blah blah. Or I really loved John Byrne's Alpha Flight. That first 20 or so issues. Or I loved when John Byrne took over Man of Steel and how he got Superman. He did a different take on Superman, but yet kept him to his humble roots. That's what we usually talk about, right? The stories. The same way we talk about movies. When we talk about movies, we don't talk about the CGI. Oh, Avengers CGI was amazing. No, we talk about the stories. When we were kids, we got comics without lunch money or did chores to make some spending money. Some spent on comics, cheap cards, and toys. Today, the model is upside down. It's just so hard to get into the hands of futures fans. And that's the other thing, is everything is expensive. I mean, you're spending $80 on a tit cover. Probably get a dirty prostitute for that. But anyway, it's just me. It's just me, and I know I'm not everybody. I'd rather spend $15 on a well-written comic that I can't wait to read the next one than $80 on a Taylor Swift fake naked cover. I'm sorry, I would. I don't know. Attention spans are getting shorter and death of physical media, at least to me. Wish we had reason to gather. Yeah, you're right. Death of physical media. Attention spans are shorter because there's too much at their fingertips. But why aren't we focusing on getting back to that as opposed to just giving into it? I never liked that answer. Well, it's just the way it is now. Why? Because we just let it go. No, you got to fight for the things you love. You got to fight for the things that matter. You don't just let it go. If your house is falling down around you, you just sit there and say, all right, I'm not going to work overtime this week to fix my roof. Fuck it, that's just the way it goes. No. You can get too rusty with that. All right, so I've heard. Jason. Yeah, and going to the movies is way too expensive. And that's the thing. But yet, you know what? People will still throw $80 at a silly AI or Photoshop rendered, stolen off the internet, parody cover. I don't understand. That's not a comic book collector. That's someone who just likes to collect those kind of covers. And you're fine to collect that. But what is that doing for the comic book industry? Nothing. Nothing. Look at sideshow statues. They were the thing for years. They were huge. I got a bunch right here. They were huge. Now who's talking about sideshow? No, who's selling them? Nobody. Nobody. Collectors go through cycles. Comic readers are forever. As long as you keep writing good stories. How many men are been reading comics, women 30, 40 years? Right? But if you ask them about the toys they collected them for a period, they sat on a shelf, they usually sold them all, or if they didn't sell them, they're sitting on a shelf. But they're still talking about the stories, they're still collecting comics. I spent $50 going to the empty theater yesterday. Yeah, that's crazy. For burnt popcorn. Yeah, well, that's my diatribe for the day. So I'm going to leave you with something you should be checking out. We have 47 hours left. And by the way, I also want to tell you, Tragedy 6 is coming next Thursday. And I really hope for a big turnout. There hasn't been a lot of signups, which, to be honest with you, I never do signups for Tragedy for whatever reason. So maybe people just already expect to come in. I mean, we did great on the hardcover art book, and we did over 10,000 on the trade. So hopefully we can do very well for book 6. Has a Mark Bagley cover, has a great Kevin Stewart cover, and a bunch of other indie people that are awesome. Erwin Arosa, a lot of people. And Steph Wilson, of course, is back. And Tragedy 6 is really amping up with new villains. And Ricardo is just stepping up each issue. He's getting better and better with his art. I mean, he's always been great, but he's getting better and better. And we're trying to give you a great story. And trust me, the first story arc is over. Where it goes is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we need your support. So Tragedy 6 is launching next Thursday, a week from this Thursday. If you could please sign up, I really appreciate it. And check it out. You're not going to be disappointed in this story. If Chuck Dixon, Peter David, and Howard Mackey say it's a good story, why aren't you giving it a try? All right, without further ado, Madcaps. Why is this slow today? There we go. All right, I'm going to big screen this. I'm going to play the trailer. We're at $1,688 with 66 backers and 47 hours to go. We have more than funded, so you're going to get your book if you pledge. But we also have D&D stuff. We have miniatures, D20, a cool map. We've got that stretch goal that's opened up. A lot of cool stuff if you like D&D RPG gaming as well as comics. It's a fantastic campaign for both. You can't go wrong. So check out the video.
A brawny intellectual, a devout farmer, a good-hearted charlatan, and a social facilitator. This circle of friends shall reunite in their hometown, Ivywood. Before they can depart for employment, they are interrupted by a local drug problem which carries hidden, sinister undertones. Can they survive the night? And what is the source of this danger? The bond amongst these friends may be the only metric to answer such questions.
Now, I'm going to tell you the first sign of a quality book is the effort someone puts into a trailer. And DM Ray Jameson, hired a professional voice actor. He got professional colorist of Spawn, Dan Kemp, a great artist. Micah Myers, which is a professional letterer. And he got amazing covers. The main cover is Jimbo Salgado. You all know his work. The man is putting professional effort into this book. So what do you think the story is going to be? It's going to be professional. It's going to be awesome. And what I liked about this book when he approached me is it's not just a typical D&D fantasy. I mean, everybody does the same old D&D story. There's a dragon, and they have to conquer the dragon, and the princess, save the princess. No, it's different, but yet it's still D&D. And I really loved it, and I enjoy it. It's book 1 of 3. But of course, 2 and 3 depend on you helping us with book 1, right? So this is the Jimbo Salgado, colored by Dan Kemp of Spawn, and the heydays of Spawn, mind you, over Greg Capullo. Amazing. And look at the character designs. Again, great character designs, hiring professionals. I mean, what more can you ask for? Nice variant covers. I mean, look what he did with the corner box. He even made a really professional corner box. It's little things like that you go unnoticed when they're done right and totally get noticed when they're done wrong, because he's got the professional eye. And of course, he's got a publisher that wouldn't allow any less than that anyway. But look at this. I mean, interesting looking characters, great designs. If you like, the buddy cop movies kind of thing, where the friends, the camaraderie, well, there's 4 friends reuniting again, 4 different personalities, and they have to deal with this threat. Beautiful, beautiful digitally painted cover. I mean, Jenna Stark, and this is by Erica Hollis. I mean, he's putting in the effort, and we sample pages so you can see what the writing is like. See, you can see for yourself. Go check it out. You will not be disappointed. Look at the colors popping off the page. There's action, there's adventure, there's camaraderie and friendship. You can read the story here. These are bios. Jay Sloan did some awesome artwork. Come and say goodnight. I'm wrapping up in a minute anyway. Good night, little bear. Sleep well, sweet dreams. God bless, kiddo. They can't see you right now, but say good night, everybody.
Night.
Tell them bye, Madcaps.
Bye.
Say that's my help me out. Say bye, Madcaps. The book is called Madcaps.
Meaning purchase, honey, not.
Buy. Go get Madcaps. Tell them that.
Bye.
You're a mess. There's a blank sketch cover here. If you like, oh God help me. Physical copy. We have a nice wraparound cover. If you're interested, they can't see you. So, good night, kiddo. I love you. Sleep well, sweet dreams. God bless. Moses. I love you. Sleep well, kid. Sorry, guys. Kids first. They're going to bed. Here's the campaign starter set. All right, leave the door open then. You can get issue 1 with the Jim Bell Salgado cover, the 4 minis, and the D20. I mean, how cool is that? And $35. Minis these days are expensive. You could spend upwards of $12 to $15 each mini. We have a really cool tier limited to 6 backers. Up to 6 comic creators get to back this tier and play as one of their created characters in a D&D game with Michael Townsend, pro DM and voice actor for Disney, and William Shatner as the Dungeon Master. So you're going to sit in on an RPG game using your creator-owned IP as the D&D character, hosted and DM'd by this famous voice actor for Disney. That's pretty cool. And it's not even expensive. It's $35. Very cool. Rule of 3. Pick any 3 covers, right? Strength in numbers, you get all 5. If you can't decide, because I know I can't, they're all beautiful, you get all 5. Full inventory, you get everything. You get the 5 covers, the 4 minis, you get the poster, and you get this laser engraved wood print. How amazing is that? Good night, Charles. Good luck, man. Did you drop your link? Add-ons if you just want the D20. If you want one of the miniatures. If you want the pinup poster. If you want the black and white and color. If you want all 4 minis. If you want the laser engraved panel. And there's a retailer tier. If you're a store, especially in Canada, well, anywhere, we offer a retailer tier. We've already unlocked this really cool map. We have already unlocked adding pages to the book, 4 pages added of their profiles with some great Jay Sloan art, etc. So that's already there. And we're close. We're coming up to this. Every physical backer will get a set of these 4 stickers based on variant covers featuring each of the main cast members. So that's all free stuff. We want to give you free stuff, but you got to get us there. We still got, what do we say, $16.88, so it's $322. So we need that, guys. Come help us. There's the team. There's Ray. There's Evan Quiring, who's the artist. Dan Kemp himself, the colorist. Micah Myers, the letterer. And that dude, man, is he handsome. Even with that extra 60 pounds on him, that's a handsome dude. The publisher, Philbo Publishing. You can scan that and go follow everything we're doing. We have other stuff coming up. Go check it out. And that's the campaign, guys. It's simple. It's not hard to navigate. If for whatever reason you're intimidated and you're finding it difficult to navigate, you reach out to DM Ray on Facebook or myself or Instagram, and we will help navigate you through. No worries. But DM Ray, Philbo Publishing, the Madcaps, issue 1 is here right now. Medieval fantasy miniseries about the reunion of 4 friends interrupted by a local drug problem. Again, it's set in a D&D fantasy world. There are surprises, there are twists, and it's all D&D related. So come check it out. Who's going to be our 66, 67, 68, 69, and 80th, or 70th, well, I can't do math anymore, 70th backer. Who's going to get us to 70 tonight? Got just under 2 days to go, guys. Help us finish strong. DM Ray has 15 illegitimate kids. He's wanted in 12 states in the country, so he needs money for bail. Help him out. All right. That's it. So I've gone on my diatribe about what I think is hurting the indie comics scene. I've showed you a quality campaign. Take it for what it's worth. You know? All right. Guys, whether it's my book or it's DM Ray's book or it's Charles' book, whatever, just start reading again. Reading physical books is awesome. The smell of the print, feeling it and holding it in your hand. The colors pop way more off a page than they do a digital page. They really do. It's a collectible to keep, and stories that will resonate and stay with you, and that maybe you'll tell your kids about or pass down those books to them. And you know what? You may think this is just a cheap marketing ploy, but it is true. Hindsight sucks, because if we all knew what Todd McFarlane was going to be, we all would own all those Spider-Man issues or original art. You never know what the next big thing is going to be. And for a small investment of $15, you get a book. You know? If you don't like it, regift it to somebody. You save the money on having to get them a gift for Christmas. But I think you'll like it. But don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself. All right. Madcaps live on Kickstarter for less than 2 days to go. Tragedy 6. Mark Bagley cover. Mark Bagley. Come check it out. Launching next Thursday. I'll leave you with what I always leave you with. Be legendary and have fun storming the castle.